I'm Caroline McMullen, part of the marketing team here at Vested, and today I'm sitting down with Jim Jockle, Chief Marketing Officer at Numerix. Jim, thanks for being here.
Caroline, thank you so much for the invitation. Happy to chat today.
Absolutely, we'll jump right in. So, as a Chief Marketing Officer at Numerix, which is a leading capital markets front to risk technology provider, the messages that you deliver have to speak to multiple audiences, from hedge funds to bankers to advisory firms. So, how do you make sure that your Marcom strategies speak to all of those different audiences?
Well, it's incredibly difficult. First and foremost, the biggest enemy that I think we all face is time and attention. So, how are you getting in front of people at the right time, and how are you quickly getting their attention? And I think, for the most part, it comes down to some of the most basic tactics. What is the persona, right? And truly understanding the roles of individuals. But as you can assume, when you start thinking of, okay, numerics being in the front to risk space, right? You have sales, trading, quants, front office risk managers, and then sell side is different from buy side, which is different language from insurance. So it's not just one persona. That matrix gets incredibly complex. And then you add a dimensionality of that, of a global reach. And what is happening in one part of the world is not necessarily happening in another, or even more specific, what's happening in Germany is not happening in France. So it's a very complex web to try and navigate. So, the way we try to differentiate ourselves and when we think about it is, number one is, how are we adding value to the conversation? It's not just good enough. No one wants to read marketing messages. We're all being marketed to, right? From the minute I get on the train in the morning to the minute I get off the train at night, I am subject and bombarded by hundreds of marketing messages. What to have for lunch, what movie to watch, whatever it may be. I scroll through LinkedIn, I scroll through my phone. So how do you develop a trust with those personas, those audiences? And I think when it comes to content marketing, the more we can understand how we're adding value to them, the more successful our marketing is going to be. The other thing, and the way we think about it, is why thought leadership is such a strong component for us is number one, let's build that trust. But we're also very, very clear when we're actually marketing, right? So, we think of, just as we think of the sales cycle as a funnel, if you will, we think of the marketing content as a funnel, right? Thought leadership down to solutions. And, it's building that trust, understanding that persona, but then also just being really transparent, like, hey, I'm going to try and sell you something, right? And by having that, I feel we're building a relationship with the audience that is also reflective of our brand and our product, right? So, we're not going to bait and switch. I mean, how many times have you ever looked at a white paper and you're like, oh yeah, no, this looks fantastic, and then, I'm on page 2, I'm trying to get someone trying to sell me something. I'm like, well, or even worse, my phone rings after I said yes, request content. So that trust is broken, right off the bat. And I think the more we can focus on how we're adding value and being transparent on that and delivering on that promise, we're creating strong relationships of trust and elevating the brand from the first point of contact.
Absolutely. So, you talk about content marketing, about thought leadership, and I think understanding that capital markets landscape, especially with things like trading and risk operations, can feel like complex topics. So, how do you make sure that you're building engaging and creative campaigns around complex topics such as those?
Well, I think it comes down to team composition first and foremost. By background, I was a fixed income analyst, and kind of got into the derivative space over time. My head of thought leadership is a former derivatives trader. My head of product marketing was an FX trader. So we built the team. When I built the team, was really saying, how do I add a level of domain expertise? And then from there, how do I surround that with marketing expertise? And having that that balance of internal SMEs, even within the department, creates better conversation with other SMEs within the organization. So the product managers and our quantitative research and development team, because of our backgrounds, we can have very in-depth conversations on different topics that bring out even more thought leadership from them, right? So we're not putting the onus on anybody else to say, hey, I need a white paper, go write it. It's, hey, I worried about this market dislocation myself. What do you think? And now we're having a different level of conversation. So I think it's rooted on the individuals with the team. Now, mind you, SMEs are expensive, and SMEs who want to be in marketing are even more rare. But it's if you can find some of those diamonds, it really changes that conversation.
Absolutely. So I know that you and your vested team have a solid, trusting working relationship. Any advice that you would give to other marketing and comms leaders who are trying to establish that same type of relationship with their own agency?
Yeah, any agency I've ever worked with, I look at them through the lens of, are they an extension of my team, right? To what extent are they going to integrate with us? I mean, as I'm sure anybody listening to this has had plenty of conversations and or experiences with agencies where you're like, great, I come in, it's a great pitch meeting, all the senior people are here, and then the next thing after 6 months, I haven't spoken to any of those people, and all I'm dealing with are account executives, and I'm doing more work and training them. And I'll tell you, internally, I think a lot of times, we've gotten jaded about that, or being more precise, I've gotten jaded because I've had those experiences many, many times with many different agencies and many names you might have heard of and many names that you've never heard of. But, I think we all do our due diligence in terms of speaking amongst each other, ourselves as peers, and saying, hey, I'm thinking about working with X, Y, and Z, and what's been your experience? But I think for me, it's the information I'm looking for is, to what extent is this agency going to be an extension of my team, and how are we going to have a collaboration, or is it going to be, I did this work and I've disappeared, and relationship is over. So I think that to me is number one.
Absolutely. So I know that you are just completing a rebrand for Numerix, which is an established company but going through exciting growth, exciting change. What thoughts or advice would you have for other leaders who are either thinking about starting a rebranding journey or who are maybe in the midst of it?
Yeah, don't. Rebranding, it is a very, very challenging exercise, and one that you want to get right, dead on, no mistakes. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've been part of about 5 or 6 of these over my career, and while they're unique and amazing experiences to be a part of, and ultimately to run, you're putting a lot of weight on your shoulders. So, I think number one, why did we rebrand? Numerix is a 20-year-old company, 26 years old at this point, but a year and a half ago we were acquired by a private equity firm, Genstar, and part of their investment thesis is growth through acquisition. And so last year we acquired FinCAD, we've acquired Polypaths, both analytic companies in the capital market space, and there'll be more to come, so watch this space. It's very exciting. But after those acquisitions, we were left with kind of fundamental questions. Was Numerix the right name of this company? Do we become a house of brands? What does our product branding look like going forward? How are we integrating the products? So as we said, hey, we need to really start thinking about this deeply, we wanted a trusted partner, number one, to work with, right? So arguably there's 23, 25 different distinct disciplines within the marketing and marcoms world, each with their own expertise and specialty. Branding is one of those. So Well, Numerix, we have a great team of marketers and SMEs on the team. Branding was not a domain expertise that we possess. So finding a trusted partner was really the first step. The second was data. So the way we tackled this with Vested, our partner, was multiple levels of data points. Number one, we did a 3-day workshop with not just the executive team, but the management of Polypaths and FinCAD. So we brought everybody in. Number two, we did a quantitative research study covering 7 financial centers across the globe. We went out to over 18,000 financial professionals to take part within this particular quantitative study. So we wanted good, strong data. We needed an understanding of where the market perspective was on not just our brand, the brands we acquired, as well as the competitive set. And then finally, as we took all of that research, we did internal interviews, we did probably about 20 client interviews across the globe, and then we took it to what we called the design shop, and this was back in January of this year, where we had an offsite meeting of probably about 95 senior leaders across Numerix, and within that, components of the brand were workshopped, even down to the visual identity. And so having as much data, inputs from a quantitative and qualitative perspective are I think critical to success. And the greatest thing about that design shop was that was a point of building alignment, right? I mean, arguably, myself and 2 other guys could probably sit in a conference room for a day and go, oh, this is our why, this is our purpose, here's our vision and mission, but no one's going to believe it. It's not rooted in anything. So by having all this data points and having checkpoints to build alignment within the organization, when we got to the internal launch, a lot of people had already been, if they didn't see the entirety of the branding program, I would say they saw components of it, and because it was backed by so much data, and even when I did the internal town hall, I spent so much time on the data and in providing everybody that information, because it's not their experience, they're software developers, they're quants, but giving them insight into how the decisions were made and getting that buy-in, right? Because everybody in that company needs to be a brand ambassador. So I will say this, getting to the starting line is a painful process. And I would argue it was probably over a year of work. We've also introduced a new website as part of that. And the way I've been thinking about it and the ramp up is, your day 0 is your launch day, but there's so much to do in terms of brand activation from an internal perspective. I mean, think of every PowerPoint, every fact sheet, every office, if you will. All that has to get complete. As that's winding down, then you're going out to market, right? So you're ramping that up. You have a day 1 launch, but for example, we're not going to be dropping ads until about 45 days later, because we want to have that internal cohesiveness and getting people on board and not necessarily killing the old visual identity, but more importantly, upskilling everyone to, as they go to meetings, can talk effectively about what this branding or rebrand is. And so that'll make things more cohesive as the market starts responding into the new identity, the new brand, the new messaging, right? Then our support team can talk about it, our sales organization can talk about it. It's not just marketing or 7 people who own this in terms of activation. So as part of this, one of the things why I said don't do this is it's not just get to day 1. It's, as part of this, we've even slated 18 to 24 months from now to do another quantitative study, right? To the extent of how well did we do with the activation? Did our messaging stick? Are we improving on our brand attributes, right? We have a baseline. Now how do we do? How are we improving, and how is the message getting out there? So, if someone wants a fun 3 to 5 year project, go for it.
Such exciting work, and I know it's been a journey. So to wrap us up, big question: What do you think are the biggest challenges that B2B financial marketers are facing, and also the opportunities?
Yeah, it's a great question, and if you read all the surveys, we all have different challenges, but I would say right now data wrangling is a huge issue. Everybody's trying to get a good understanding of their metrics and desperate data sources, and how do I manage all my KPIs, right? So everybody's worried about that, but there's so many challenges on the forefront or changes in the market, right? That people need to be aware of and in tune to. So, I've always argued, in marketing, if you're not reinventing yourself every 3 years, then you're not going to be relevant. And right now we're on that cusp, the chat GBT, generative AI. We're on the cusp of that, and that's going to, marketing is definitely an area that is an area of disruption, and it's not a negative thing at all. It's definitely a positive thing. But so I think people are struggling to figure out how to adopt AI effectively. That is a newer pain point. Data wrangling, another additional pain point. Budgets. I think that's one probably we all face. That but those are the things that kind of keep me up at night. Is I could always use more resource, but now how can I be more productive, and how can I prove it? Are the three things that I always keeps me up at night.
Absolutely. Any opportunities that you're seeing?
Opportunities. Well, I think the more we study the market, the more we can get out of the perspective of this is my job, this is what I need to do, here are the KPIs I need to move. The more we can stay focused on how are we connecting with people, right? The opportunities will start to reveal themselves.
Absolutely. Such great insights. Thank you for being here, Jim.
Thank you.